Bible in a year, making it easier to understand.
And I'm telling you, Stephanie, it was the last 3 minutes of the interview. 3 minutes. I had crushed it for 45 straight minutes. The handshake was firm, the resume was spotless, the small talk about golf was chef's kiss. And then the CEO says, "Any final questions?" And I called him by the wrong name.
Oh no, please tell me you didn't.
I'd been calling him David the entire time. His name was Daniel. 45 minutes of perfection, destroyed by one syllable in the final seconds. One bad moment. That's all it took.
Please tell me you still got the job.
I did not get the job, Steph. And you know what? That's basically the story of Moses' entire career today in Numbers 20. Except instead of losing a corner office, he lost the promised land because of one bad swing of a stick.
Welcome back to the Deeper Dive community, everyone. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm John, and today is day 64. We are covering Numbers 19, 20, and 21. And honestly, this might be the most emotionally devastating stretch of reading we've had since we started this journey. We're talking death, grief, anger, snakes, and, somehow, hope.
It really is a roller coaster. But before we get to the heartbreak in chapter 20, we need to start with chapter 19, which is one of the most mysterious rituals in the entire Old Testament. John, I'll be honest, I read this chapter 3 times and I still had questions.
You're in excellent company. Even the ancient rabbis called the red heifer the ultimate choke. And following our 5th grade rule, a choke is just a divine command that doesn't have to make logical sense to humans. It's a rule you follow because God said so, not because you can build a flowchart around it.
So give us the plain English version. What on earth is the red heifer?
Okay, picture this. God tells Moses to find a cow, a completely red cow, with 0 white hairs, 0 blemishes, that has never worn a yoke. This animal has never been to work, never clocked in, never pulled a cart. It's had a full gap year its entire life.
A cow on permanent sabbatical.
Exactly. And they slaughter it outside the camp, not at the tabernacle, which is already unusual. Burn the entire thing, and then mix the ashes with fresh water. And that mixture becomes the water of purification. It's basically God's ancient reset solution for anyone who had been contaminated by contact with death.
Why death specifically? Why is touching a dead body such a massive deal in this system?
Because death is the ultimate corruption. And I don't mean political corruption. I mean biological, spiritual decay. In God's economy, death was never part of the original blueprint. It's the intruder. The virus that crashed the system back in Genesis 3. So when someone touched a dead body, they weren't just unclean in a hygiene sense. They had come into contact with the thing that was most opposite to God, who is pure life. The red heifer ritual was God saying, "I have a way to bring you back from the contamination of death itself."
That's actually really beautiful when you frame it that way. It's not about shaming people who are around death. Someone had to bury the dead. Someone had to care for the dying. It's about saying, there's a way back to the community. You're not stuck in the contamination forever.
It's like having a factory reset option on your phone. You picked up a virus, not because you're a bad person, but because you live in a world full of malware. The red heifer is God's antivirus software, Steph.
But here's the part that twists my brain. The priest who prepares the ashes becomes unclean in the process. The person who sprinkles the purification water also becomes unclean. How does the thing that makes you clean make the handler dirty?
And that, my friend, is why the rabbis called this the king of the Chukim. It's a paradox. The cure carries the cost. The one who administers the healing absorbs some of the contamination. And for us as Christians,
That sounds a lot like someone else we know.
it's pointing straight to Jesus. He who knew no sin became sin for us. He absorbed the contamination of death so we could be purified. But we'll save that full hidden gem connection for segment 3. Because right now, we need to talk about what happens in chapter 20. And Steph, you might want to grab the tissues.
Oh, I already have them. Because Numbers 20 opens with 4 devastating words, and Miriam died there. That's it. No fanfare, no eulogy, no state funeral for the woman who saved baby Moses in a basket. Just silence.
She's been with us since Exodus chapter 2. She's the girl who hid her brother in the reeds on the Nile. She's the one who danced with the tambourine after the Red Sea. She's been the worship leader of this nation for 40 years. and the Bible gives her death one sentence.
And immediately, literally, the very next verse, the text says, "Now there was no water for the congregation." John, do you think that's connected? The rabbis called it Miriam's well, right?
There's a whole rabbinic tradition that says God provided a miraculous well of water that followed the camp because of Miriam's merit. And the second she dies, it dries up. Whether you take that literally or metaphorically, the timing is devastating. The nation doesn't even get to grieve before the next crisis hits.
And the people respond the way they always respond. They quarrel. Why did you bring us out of Egypt to die in this wilderness? It's the same broken record, John. The exact same script we've been hearing since Exodus.
Every time things get hard, they reach for the same playlist. Egypt was better. They're like someone who keeps going back to the same toxic relationship because at least it was familiar.
So God tells Moses, "Take the staff, gather the assembly, and speak to the rock before their eyes, and it shall yield its water." Speak to it. Just talk to it.
But Moses is done. He's exhausted. He just buried his sister. The people are screaming at him. Again. And something snaps. He stands in front of the rock and says, "Here now, you rebels. Shall we bring water for you out of this rock?" And then he strikes it. Twice.
And water still comes out. The miracle still happens.
But here's the devastating part. God says to Moses and Aaron, "Because you did not believe in me to uphold me as holy in the eyes of the people of Israel, therefore you shall not bring this assembly into the land." Moses, the man who has been carrying this nation on his back for 40 years, just lost his ticket to the promised land because of one swing.
John, this is the part that wrecks me because it feels so disproportionate. He's human. He was grieving. He was angry. Haven't we all had moments where our emotions got the best of us?
It's the CEO meltdown. You build a company for decades. You're the face of the brand. And then one unscripted outburst at a press conference, one moment where the grief and the pressure boil over, and the board says, "We're going in a different direction." It doesn't erase the legacy, but it changes the ending of the story.
But why was it such a big deal? It's a rock.
Because it wasn't just a rock. The first time, at Rephidim back in Exodus 17, God told Moses to strike the rock. And theologians believe that rock represented Christ. Paul actually says exactly that in 1 Corinthians 10, verse 4. Christ was struck once on the cross. But the second time, God said, "Speak." The message was supposed to be, the rock has already been struck. You don't hit it again. You come with words now. You come with faith. Moses turned a picture of grace into a picture of violence. And that's why the place is called Meribah, which just means quarreling.
Wow. So even the name of the place tells the story. One moment of frustration, stamped into the geography forever.
But don't go anywhere, because after the break, we're going to talk about what happens when your own family slams the door in your face, why Aaron's final walk up a mountain is one of the most heartbreaking goodbyes in the Bible, and how God turns a plague of snakes into a preview of the cross.
Stay with us, Deeper Dive family. This one's heavy, but it's going to be worth it.
And we are back. All right, Stephanie, if segment 1 was the emotional earthquake, segment 2 is the aftershock, because the hits in Numbers 20 and 21 just keep coming.
They really do. And I want to stay in chapter 20 for a minute because right after the Meribah disaster, Moses tries to take a shortcut through Edom. And for those of you who might have forgotten, John, who are the Edomites?
They're family. The Edomites are the descendants of Esau, Jacob's twin brother. So Israel and Edom are basically cousins. Moses sends a message that's polite, respectful, even humble. He says, "Hey, we just need to pass through your property. We won't touch the crops. We won't drink from the wells. We'll even stay on the highway."
And Edom says,
"No, and if you try it, we'll come at you with swords." They didn't just decline. They mobilized a heavy force. It's the ancient version of your own family changing the locks and posting a no trespassing sign at the exact moment you need them the most.
it's the family group chat that goes completely silent when you actually need something. Everyone's there for the birthday memes and the holiday potluck photos, but the second you need real help, moving day, financial crisis, hospital visit, suddenly nobody's reading the messages.
And here's the modern mirror that really stings. Sometimes God's plan requires you to take the long way around because the people who should have helped you chose not to. Israel had to detour all the way around Edom's territory. It added miles and days to an already exhausting journey. But God didn't tell them to fight Edom. He told them to walk away.
Why, though? They had God on their side. They could have taken Edom easily.
Because Edom was still family. God had already told them in Deuteronomy, "Do not contend with Esau's descendants, for I've given them Mount Seir as their possession." Even when your family wrongs you, God sometimes says, "Don't go to war with them. Go around them. I'll deal with them in my timing."
That's hard. Really hard. But it's a real lesson. Not every closed door requires you to kick it down. Sometimes the detour is the destination.
And then comes maybe the quietest tragedy in all of Numbers. God tells Moses, "Take Aaron up to Mount Hor. Strip him of his priestly garments. Put them on his son Eleazar. Aaron will die there."
John, I've read this passage so many times, but it still makes my chest tight. Moses has to walk his own brother up a mountain, undress him, redress his nephew, and then watch Aaron die. All of it happening in front of the whole nation watching from below.
It's a sunset ceremony. Aaron's last act as high priest is to literally hand off his uniform, the breastplate with the 12 stones, the turban with the golden plate that says "Holy to the Lord," to the next generation. He doesn't fight it. He doesn't argue. He just lets go.
It's the retirement dinner nobody wanted to throw. But John, I think there's something beautiful buried inside the pain. Because Aaron gets to see his son take over. He gets to physically place the mantle on Eleazar's shoulders. Not every leader gets that kind of closure.
You're right. Most leaders get pushed out or they burn out. Aaron got a holy handoff, and the text says Israel mourned him for 30 days. 30 days! He was honored. He was grieved, and the work continued. It's God's way of saying, the mission is bigger than any one person, but every person matters.
So within a single chapter, we lose Miriam and Aaron, two of the original 3 leaders of the Exodus, gone. And Moses just found out he won't finish the journey either. It's like the whole original team is being retired.
It's a generational shift. And for anyone listening who's in a season of watching the people who built you start to step back, mentors retiring, parents aging, leaders passing the torch, this chapter feels very personal.
And then we turn the page to Numbers 21, and the people are right back to complaining. John, I don't know whether to laugh or cry at this point.
It's the sequel nobody asked for. They've just seen 2 of their most important leaders die. They've been forced to take a long detour. And what do they say? "We loathe this worthless food." They're talking about the manna, the miraculous, heaven-sent daily bread from God, and they call it worthless.
That's like getting a free meal delivered to your door every single day and then leaving a 1-star review because it doesn't come with garlic bread.
And God's response is terrifying. He sends fiery serpents. The Hebrew is nachash seraph, which literally means burning snakes. These weren't garden snakes, Steph. Their bite caused a searing, burning agony that spread through the body, and people start dying.
And this is where the people finally get it right. They come to Moses and say, "We have sinned." They don't blame Egypt this time. They don't try to fire Moses. They actually confess.
And God tells Moses to do something that makes zero logical sense. He says, "Make a fiery serpent and set it on a pole, and everyone who is bitten, when he sees it, shall live." So Moses makes a serpent out of bronze, nachash nekoshet, and puts it up on a pole, and anyone who looked at it was healed.
Wait, the cure for snake bites is looking at a snake? That's like telling someone with a fear of heights that the cure is to stare at a skyscraper? How does that work?
It's the ultimate face your fear therapy. God didn't remove the snakes from the camp. He didn't airlift everyone to safety. He said, "The thing that's killing you, I'm going to lift it up, and when you look at it through the lens of my provision, it loses its power over you." It's the ancient version of exposure therapy, but with divine backing.
And the key action is so beautifully simple. Just look. Don't perform a ritual. Don't sacrifice an animal. Don't climb the pole. Just look up.
Which is exactly why Jesus quotes this very passage in John chapter 3, verse 14. He says, "As Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so must the Son of Man be lifted up, that whoever believes in him may have eternal life. The bronze serpent was a preview of the cross, Steph. The thing that was killing humanity, sin, was lifted up on a wooden pole, and anyone who looks to it in faith is healed.
So the cure for sin looks like sin? Just like the bronze serpent looked like the very thing causing death?
Now you're getting it. Paul says in 2 Corinthians 5, verse 21, he made him to be sin who knew no sin, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God. Jesus became the serpent on the pole. He took the form of the curse so we could receive the cure.
That connects all the way back to the red heifer from segment 1. The one who carries the cure absorbs the contamination.
It's all one story. The red heifer, the bronze serpent, and ultimately the cross. They're all singing the same song. God's healing requires a substitution. Someone clean gets dirty, so someone dirty can get clean.
I need to sit with that for a second. But don't go anywhere, Deeper Dive family, because when we come back, John is going to blow your mind with a Hebrew word that ties serpents, bronze, and prophecy into one incredible hidden gem. Plus, we've got some surprise victories to celebrate.
Spoiler alert, it involves singing to a well and picking fights with giants. Don't touch that dial.
And we are back for the final stretch of day 64. If you've been with us from the top, your heart has been through a full workout. Purification ashes, a sister's funeral, a brother's last walk up a mountain, and a bronze snake on a stick. It's been a lot.
But we saved the best stuff for last, Steph. Because there are some serious hidden gems buried in these chapters that most people fly right past. And the first one? It's a Hebrew wordplay that will make your jaw hit the floor.
I love when you find the Hebrew puns. Let's hear it.
Okay, so remember the bronze serpent? Moses made a nachash nekoshet. Now, in Hebrew, nachash means serpent, but nekoshet means bronze or copper. And here's the hidden gem. Those two words come from the exact same root. It's a deliberate wordplay. It would be like saying in English, he made a snake steak. The name of the cure sounds like the name of the curse.
A snake steak. Okay, that's good.
But it gets deeper. The root of nachash also carries the idea of divination or careful observation. So when God told the people to look at the bronze serpent, he was using the very word associated with the snake to redeem it. The thing you used to look at for evil, for fortune-telling and sorcery back in the pagan world, now you look at for salvation. God literally repurposed the enemy's vocabulary.
That is incredible. It's like God taking the thing the enemy designed for destruction and flipping the entire script. The serpent that cursed Eden in Genesis 3 is now being used as a tool of healing in Numbers 21.
And here's the core connection to the bigger Bible story. Fast forward about 700 years, and King Hezekiah has to destroy that same bronze serpent because people started worshiping it. They gave it a name, Nehushtan, and started burning incense to it like it was a god. The cure had become an idol.
Oh, John, that is such a modern mirror. How many things in our lives started as a blessing and slowly became an idol? A career that was a gift becomes a god. A relationship that was healthy becomes an obsession. Even ministry, the act of serving God, can become the thing we worship instead of God himself. We start bowing to the method instead of the maker.
Exactly. The lesson of Nehushtan is this: never worship the tool, worship the toolmaker. The bronze serpent wasn't magic. It was a sign pointing people's eyes toward God's mercy. The second you start worshiping the sign instead of the source, it has to be torn down.
That's such a needed word. Okay, but before we close out, we absolutely need to talk about the ending of chapter 21, because after all this grief and judgment, something incredible happens. The whole tone shifts.
It's the comeback arc of the chapter. So after the bronze serpent, the nation starts moving again, and they come to a place called Bir, which is just the Hebrew word for well, and God tells Moses, "Gather the people together, and I will give them water." But this time, there's no rock to strike. No staff drama, no controversy. Instead, the people do something they haven't done in what feels like forever. They sing.
They sing to a well?
They literally sing to a well. Numbers 21:17 says, "Spring up, O well, sing to it. The well that the princes made, that the nobles of the people dug with the scepter and with their staffs." It's the first worship song Israel has sung since Miriam died. After all the complaining, the grumbling, the snake bites, and the grief, They finally open their mouths and sing again.
And I think that's so important for our listeners right now, because sometimes after a season of loss and struggle, the thing that breaks the curse of complaining is choosing to worship anyway. You don't have to feel like singing. You just open your mouth and start, and the water shows up.
It's the playlist prescription. When your life feels dry and even the manna tastes stale, change the playlist. Stop rehearsing the problem and start singing to the promise.
And then, out of nowhere, Israel starts winning. They send a message to Sihon, king of the Amorites. Same deal as Edom, let us pass through your land. But Sihon refuses and actually attacks them.
Big mistake. Because unlike Edom, the Amorites weren't family. God gave Israel the green light, and they absolutely crushed Sihon. Took all his cities, settled in Heshbon, the whole territory. And then Og, king of Bashan, rolls up thinking he can do the same thing.
And Og was one of the legendary giants. Wasn't his bed something like 13 feet long?
The man needed a California king plus. But God tells Moses, "Do not be afraid of him, for I have delivered him into your hand." And Israel defeats Og too. So within a handful of verses, the nation goes from singing to a well to conquering two of the most powerful kings east of the Jordan River.
It's such a massive shift, John. At the start of today's reading, they're crying about water and dying from snake venom. By the end, they're singing worship songs and toppling kingdoms. What changed?
They looked up. That's it. That's the whole pivot. When they were staring at the sand and the snakes, they were dying. When they looked up at the bronze serpent, when they lifted their eyes toward God's provision, everything changed. The direction of your gaze determines the direction of your life.
Ready for the text message summary?
Let's hear it. The same God who provides the cure in your contamination is the God who turns your grief into a song and your detour into a victory.
That's going in my notes app right now. Thank you so much for diving deep with us today on Day 64, Deeper Dive Family. I know these chapters were heavy. Loss, grief, consequences, snakes. But there's so much hope buried in this reading if you know where to look.
If today's episode showed you something new about the bronze serpent or the red heifer, or even Moses' one bad moment at the rock, do us a favor, hit that share button. Send this to someone who needs to hear that God's grace still flows, even when we swing instead of speak.
Lord, we thank you that you are the God who purifies, who provides water in the desert, and who turns even the symbol of our curse into a sign of our salvation. Forgive us for the moments we've struck when you told us to speak. Forgive us for worshiping the method instead of the maker. Help us to look up today, not at our problems, but at your provision. Amen.
We'll see you tomorrow for Day 65. Until then, stay curious, stay faithful.
And keep looking up.